I met this guy when I was quite young. It was actually the first man I've ever had sex with, and we were in a relationship for 4 years. I was 17 when I met him, and I was 17, discovered sex, wanted to have sex all the time, and I was in love. So that's what we did. We had sex all the time, and then the relationship kind of, you want to have sex all the time, and then maybe a bit less, which is perfectly fine. But back then, I didn't know it was normal. I felt like I had a problem, not enough libido, or I couldn't, because my ex wanted to have sex all the time. He still really wanted, he was still really into it, and I just didn't really feel like it. I don't know what triggered it, if it was the relationship. I also changed contraception, went to a different hormonal contraception, which I think didn't help. But the fact was that I just didn't want to have sex. And it wasn't like not hearing me, I was just not saying it. So it could be a bit pushy, never forceful. Like, it was never me saying no and him, pushing it. It was just me not being confident enough or secure enough to say I don't want to have sex. So kind of pushed myself to have sex, and it became this I was going to say a course, but that's even worse. It became this thing I had to just do, and I had to deal with that, and then I would be fine for a few weeks. That's not how sex should be, and that wasn't fair to me nor to him. And I think, I was the first woman he had sex with too. We were quite inexperienced, and consent wasn't something you discussed back then, and that was only 7-8 years ago, and we didn't talk about it. Really, we didn't talk about it. My friends and I didn't talk about the fact that we didn't want to have sex, because admitting you didn't want to have sex was oh, is there something wrong with you? I just feel that was kind of, yeah, I'm going to say the most sexist thing ever. I just felt like that was kind of my duty too. We were in a relationship, and that was expected of me. I knew, I was okay, we can have sex every other week, and that should be enough, because surely you can't expect me to have sex more than that if I don't want to. But I still had the feeling that that was part of the deal. You were in a relationship, you had to have sex. People are half expecting women not to want to have sex. This whole oh, I've got a migraine, always trying to get out of sex. We've got this vision that men should always want to have sex and women don't really want to have sex, and men have to convince women. I think both men and women, whatever your gender is, you suffer from it. You suffer from this idea that that's what's expected of you. And I'd say I started being more aware of the notion of consent. That's when we started talking about it, the Me Too movement, which was, that was quite something. Suddenly everybody was starting talking about consent. You would log on Facebook, and half of your friends would have a hashtag Me Too on their page, and you're this is just horrific, and in a way fantastic, because we're finally talking about it. But the anger that came out of it for me made me stronger, and made me voice what I wanted and not wanted a bit more, expressing my needs, what I wanted, what I didn't want, and my desires. Just, yeah, I've had a few partners and just had sex, and they were doing something that I wasn't really enjoying. I wasn't disliking it, but it wasn't working for me. But I didn't voice it, because women are not taught to be to have a voice. We're not taught to be loud. We're supposed to just accept and, just be happy whatever we get. So it was about learning to take up space, not just be compliant, but yeah, take up space, be loud. And then I started a new relationship, which was really secure, and it was more like a partnership. And I got to to talk a lot about that with my partner, and this idea of we need to talk about these things, and we need to interact before, during, after sex, constantly say if it's okay or not. And just that's this really, really strong feeling that was from him was like, I do not want to have sex with you if you don't want to like have sex, like if you're not 100% sure.